As of 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, October the 15th, virtually the entire press corps who covered the Defense Department, Department of War, Pentagon, will be asked to leave the building. That is right. You heard me right. Asked to leave the building. And the reason why is because the vast majority of them in the institutions that they work for are refusing to sign a 21-page pledge put out by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and designed to control everything that comes out of the Pentagon. Now, I am not someone who reflexively takes the media's side in every argument. I think the media has done plenty of dumb things to lose the trust of the American public over the years. So I grant that. I am not, even though I spent a long time in mainstream media and I'm a reporter now, I'm not just going to say, yes, the media is always right in every situation and every showdown like this. But I do think that what Pete Hegseth is trying to do at the Pentagon is undemocratic. And whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, whatever, you should oppose it. And I think not enough people know about it. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Okay, so at 5 p.m. Wednesday, October 15th, reporters who do not sign this 21-page pledge are required to turn in their media credentials and leave the building. Really, they had to sign it by Tuesday, October 14th. This is a 24-hour grace period, but we know that the vast majority of people are not going to sign it. So what's in this pledge, you might ask? Well, a bunch of stuff. It's 21 pages long, but the keys are this. Reporters cannot solicit any information. So they can't ask for any information from the Pentagon, people at the Pentagon, or people connected to the Pentagon that is not approved for official release by the Pentagon. So basically, they can report on press releases that the Pentagon sends out and nothing else. What happens if they do report on things that, and this can be unclassified information as well as classified information. What happens if they do report on that? Well, the policy says that reporters could be deemed a security risk if they disclose classified or unclassified information without Pentagon permission. Now, this is the opposite of journalism. This is basically, this is state-run media, right? This is, you will report what we tell you to report. And let me say again, I think particularly when you're reporting about the Pentagon, the Defense Department, national security, there are times, and I've been in organizations where this has been an issue, there are times when there are real lives at stake, and reporting certain pieces of information that a reporter may have obtained could be a national security risk. Now, do I think we have to be very judicious about when we withhold information that we know? Yes. But what we're talking about here is not that. We're talking about a blanket assertion that you cannot, under any circumstances, report anything that the White House, the Pentagon has not expressly said you can report. That basically they have not put a press release out on. Okay. This is bad. This is undemocratic. I'm going to get more into it. But what I do want to know is that independent journalism and journalism that is not state-run, journalism that isn't beholden to corporate America or either party matters more now than ever before. And I want you to subscribe to my channel for exactly that reason. I am independent and I am authentic, independent from the two political parties and independent from the corporate media complex. Authentic, always going to give it to you straight, never going to tell you what you want to hear, which means you're going to disagree with me. And that's okay. In fact, I encourage it. You should not agree with me all the time. All right, back to the situation. So Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, several weeks ago rolls out this policy and says, basically, you have until October 14th at 5 p.m. to sign it. If you don't sign it, you need to turn in your media credentials and leave the building. This is effectively a dare to the media. He is saying, look, you want to report at the Pentagon, and this is the only way that you can do it. And I think that Hegseth assumed, wrongly, it turns out, that the mainstream media organizations would capitulate to this because, look, he has some reason to think that. You have seen a bunch of mainstream media organizations capitulate to Donald Trump, mostly in the form of legal settlements. ABC/Disney, CBS/Paramount have both paid off settlements to Donald Trump for frivolous lawsuits that he brought against them and their organization. So, Donald Trump took control of the White House press briefing room, sort of assigning seats, deciding who gets to travel with him and who doesn't get to travel with him. And there wasn't, reporters complained, but there wasn't really any widespread either dissatisfaction or sort of retaliation or organized protest. Well, this is a different story. So Hegseth says you got to sign this 21-page pledge, which essentially says, among other things, you can't really roam around the Pentagon freely, which again, reporters were not allowed to roam around the entire Pentagon freely anyway. They could go in certain areas, but can't roam around the Pentagon. And most importantly, you cannot report or ask for information that the Pentagon has not expressly and officially released. If you do so, you can be considered a security risk. Okay. So the question leading up to this week was who's going to sign this and who's not? And the answer is almost everyone refused to sign it. So that includes the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, the Associated Press, but it also includes very either conservative or pro-Trump outlets like Newsmax, the Washington Times, and Fox News. The only organization to date that signed it was One America News, OAN. They signed it, but they are the only people out there who have signed it. So look, I don't throw around the word undemocratic all that much, right? I think this whole democracy in peril thing is a bit overblown by liberals, but consider a couple things. One, the Pentagon has a $1 trillion budget this year. $1 trillion. That is far larger than any other government agency, any other department of the U.S. government by factors of 10. It's massively, massively larger. Okay. So having oversight, basically what Pete Hegseth wants to do is to say, well, just trust us. We're doing great. We're kicking ass. We're taking names. Okay. But I'm a trust but verify guy, especially when you have $1 trillion with a T dollars at your disposal. I think anyone should want to have an active press corps there. Yes, a responsible press corps, but an active press corps. As I said before, when you are dealing with national security reporting, of course, the bar is higher and different. Are you putting American lives in danger by reporting something? That is always a question that any serious media organization always thinks about and is always cognizant of. But this idea that you can just put a blanket structure that says you can't report anything unless we've already officially released it. Well, that's not journalism, nor is it oversight, nor is it accountability. That's state-run media. And by the way, Pete Hegseth, as Secretary of War, has, this is not in a vacuum. He's done a number of things that I would argue are undemocratic as it relates to the press and its ability to cover what he and his department are doing. Earlier this year, Hegseth led the charge to remove mainstream media reporters from permanent desks that they had in the Pentagon. Basically just a sort of childish way to punish them. Say, we're going to be doing a rotating thing. So this desk that you've had for 20 years to NBC News to report from the Pentagon, it's not your desk anymore. We're going to rotate it around. Okay. They've restricted already how much reporters can move through the building. Again, Hegseth is trying to sell this idea that reporters could just roam and go anywhere they wanted. No, that's never been true, and he has already restricted it. The other thing I'll note, the Pentagon, Defense Department, Department of War almost never holds press conferences. This is not a terribly accountable department. And it's the department, as I've said, but I'm going to say again, with the largest budget by far of any department within the government. Now, how is Pete Hegseth handling the news that the vast majority of these media organizations are not going to sign his pledge? Pretty much as you think. So Hegseth has taken to X, Twitter, and basically every time a media organization publishes its statement on why they're not going to sign it, I'll give you one example. The Washington Post says, journalists from the Washington Post will not be signing the Pentagon's new press access policy. The proposed restrictions undercut First Amendment protections by placing unnecessary constraints on gathering and publishing information. We will continue to vigorously and fairly report on the policies and positions of the Pentagon and officials across the government. That's from Matt Murray, the executive editor of the Washington Post. A serious statement, whether or not you disagree with it. Pete Hegseth posted the waving hand emoji in response to it. He did the same thing when The Atlantic posted their statement. He did the same thing when the New York Times posted their statement. He reposted an image created by the XAI, Grok, with The Atlantic, a shirt saying The Atlantic with a baby crying. Get it? They're whiny babies. This is not a serious response. It is undemocratic to say that reporters who cover a massive government agency are not allowed to report on that agency unless they are told that they can report on it by the agency. Again, that's the opposite of accountability. It's the opposite of oversight. It does not work in a democracy, right? This is not an authoritarian dictatorship. We have a free and independent media who, yes, needs to be responsible, but should also be free to pursue stories that may not paint the Pentagon in the best light. Maybe it will paint the Pentagon in the best light, but they should be free to report on any sorts of stories. This policy would not allow them to do that. I think it is hugely destructive. I think Pete Hegseth is playing a game of chicken, and he thought that the media organizations would take their foot off the gas and swerve out of the way, and they are not. I don't know where this ends up. Maybe some sort of negotiated settlement after it's clear that the 100+ reporters who report on the Pentagon, there's none of them left in the Pentagon. Maybe Donald Trump steps in to try to negotiate something here. But look, this is undemocratic. You cannot be for pro-democracy and support these kind of policies as it relates to the media, period, full stop. As I said before, I hope you subscribe to my channel. Independent, authentic. Now more than ever, we need it. Also, I hope you like and comment on this video in particular. It helps build my community for people who are not already subscribers. Can't believe there are those people out there. Finally, be an evangelist for me. Tell people what I'm doing here and why you think it's important and why they need to check it out. Okay, take care.